Hello again and welcome back. In the last few training sessions, you have learned how to choose the best web page layout for your web pages based on the type of content that you need to present, how and why you should create basic wireframe layouts to save yourself time and effort before beginning the design phase, and the best way to organize web page content to lead your visitors through a journey to complete a call to action. You are now ready to enter the final design phase where you will convert your basic wireframes into full web page designs. In this lesson, you will learn how to use your visual identity guidelines to apply your brand's colors, typography, imagery, and style to your web page layouts. I will also show you how to use design to create focus, draw attention, and direct your audience to a call to action. But before we dive into the design, let's quickly audit your web page wireframes to verify that they are ready for design. Remember, creating these layouts and wireframes is a critical step to improving the usability and the communication of each of your web pages for your audience. Therefore, they should be well defined before any colors, fonts, imagery, or content is added. Here are some questions to help you determine if your web page wireframes are ready for design. Does the layout support the goals of the web page? Does the layout use negative space to create visual impact? Does the layout stimulate the audience through visual tension? Does the layout include focal points that highlight important content? Does the layout tell a compelling story? Is the layout creative? Is there important content and a call to action button above the fold? Is the layout accessible and easy to navigate on all devices and browsers? Are there calls to action distributed throughout the layout? Does the wireframe state the problem that your visitor wants to solve? Does the wireframe explain the benefits of your products or services? Does the wireframe describe who your product and service is for? Does the wireframe demonstrate why your products or service works? Does the wireframe show the result that your customers should expect? Does the wireframe include testimonials, ratings, or social proof? Does the wireframe inform your customers about what they will receive? And does the wireframe include an FAQ section? Once you can answer yes to all of these questions, you are ready to begin the design phase. Let's begin by applying your brand's visual identity by adding your logo to the design. Depending on your website layout, this may be in the upper left of the page or perhaps centered at the top of the page if you're designing a landing page that is absent of navigation. Be sure the logo is large enough that all elements are visible, recognizable, and legible. Next, you want to apply your brand's color palette to elements of the wireframe. You should have already defined one primary color, 2 to 3 accent colors, and 3 to 5 supporting colors. When applying these colors to the design, remember the emotional response and the perceptions that each of these colors invokes. The primary and accent colors should be used to highlight the most important elements on the page. For example, valuable information, buttons, and calls to action. The supporting colors should then be used for backgrounds, borders, text blocks, content separators, headings, subtitles, and button hover states. Remember to take advantage of white space or negative space on the page. You don't have to apply color everywhere. Less is more and will help draw the visitor's attention to the most important content. Also, get creative and with textures and opaque imagery overlays on blocks of color. These effects will add more depth and visual impact to your designs. Once you have applied all of the brand colors, it's time to assign the brand typography to the text elements on the page. You should have defined 2 to 3 brand typefaces in your brand guidelines. Begin by applying the most impactful fonts to the page headings. Next, work your way down the page and apply the subheading fonts, and then finally the basic paragraph fonts to the text blocks, lists, and bullet points. Remember to take advantage of the different font weights that may be available for each of your typefaces. This will help create focus, draw attention, as well as support your brand's personality. The final step is to apply all the graphics, icons, photos, and imagery to your web page. The content placement and dimensions for each of these elements should have already been defined with placeholders in your wireframes. So all you need to do now is swap out each placeholder with the actual photo, icon, or graphic. If you have added any video placeholders to your wireframes, just keep those as placeholders for now. You will add any video or motion graphics later in the development stage. Once the page has been fully designed, review everything that you have done and make any necessary changes. You may find that call to action buttons are too close to each other, Or perhaps some of the color placements are not as visually appealing as they could be. Pay close attention to the font sizes and verify that all text elements are legible. Take a broad overview of the entire page and ask yourself the following questions. Does the page feel cohesive? Are your eyes drawn to the most important content on the page? Does the page support your brand style? Does the page reflect your brand's personality? Is the page visually appealing? Does the page tell a story and lead the visitor through a journey? Does the design support the content and the goals of the page? Is there a clear, obvious, and easily accessible call to action? Is this page great design? And do you love this page? I've mentioned a few times before that the page structure, layout, and the usability is more important than the actual design. Yes, the page design needs to be visually appealing. However, if the experience is not intuitive and the user does not know what to click on or where to direct their attention, they will become frustrated and leave your page. To help you create the best user experience and retain the website visitors for longer, here are some valuable tips on how to create focus, draw attention, and direct your audience through design. Tip number 1, use movement. Movement on a web page can be everything from videos to animations to slideshows to scrolling effects to how the content enters the page to how buttons react on a hover state or how the navigation menu responds to interaction. Movement not only enhances the user experience, but it also highly effective in generating a response. While movement can have a positive impact on the viewer, it can also create a negative experience. Great designers know when to hold back. Be subtle when adding movement. If it doesn't improve the experience, it most likely distracts from it. Tip number 2, use directional imagery. People love photos of other people, specifically a person's face. These photos will increase the human and emotional connection the viewer will experience when visiting your webpage. When people can associate other humans to a brand, they are more likely to approve of it and perceive it as trustworthy. Also, studies have shown that people will follow the gaze of the people in the photos. So always be sure that when using photos of people, that they are either looking towards or pointing at the content that you want them to pay attention to. One final tip about imagery, always make sure that all photos are high quality and show emotion. Try to stay away from stock imagery. Use actual photos of your team members, your products, and happy customers whenever possible. Tip number 3, use contrasting elements. Contrast can be accomplished through color, size, space, shape, or a combination of several of these options. By creating unbalance in the design, you are able to direct and guide the user through the web page without them even being aware of what you're doing. Tip number 4, use white space. Great designers know when and how to use white or negative space to increase the overall impact of the design. It may seem odd to leave an area empty and not fill it with something useful. However, it's this empty space that creates a break in the design, so the human eye and brain can take a moment to evaluate all the content and then direct attention to what appears to be the most important. Tip number 5, use impactful color. This is why you chose 1 to 2 attention colors when designing your brand's visual identity. It's these impactful, visually stimulating, and attention-grabbing colors that will direct your audience to the most important elements on the page. Typically, attention colors are used for call to action buttons, main headings, or to highlight extremely valuable content. Tip number 6, establish hierarchy with size. The size of content elements on your page will also establish importance and direct focus. Big and bold headlines can be used to emphasize the brand purpose, values, and message. Using larger text for headings and subheadings make it easier for visitors to scan the long sections of copy and follow the structure of the page. Elements like the logo, site title, and call to actions should be where your users' eyes go first, so make sure that they are large enough to draw their attention. If your business runs an online store, make your best-selling products or services the largest and the most prominent elements on the page. You can also apply this size strategy to the navigation. Structure the navigation so the most important and highest converting pages appear larger in the primary menu above the lower priority, less converting pages. All right, guys, that is it for now. You should now have all the information and the resources that you need to design a beautiful and high converting web pages. Be sure to review and complete the action guide for this module, and I will see you in the next session.